Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and after getting a good look at getting a good first impressions look at some of the new games that have been coming out, I think it's time to get back to the Signature Arcana Spotlight series. And let's see, we've got some very interesting spells to work with, I must say. Some of these being just crazy strong. I think today we are going to go with Absolute Finale. As you see, when Absolute Finale lands, it does what I like to term a shitload of damage. And it does pierce through enemies, which didn't used to be the case for this spell. But because it pierces through enemies, it really gets a lot of work done. Now, this won't erase bosses, like, at all, but it will do a lot of damage to them. And the signature is... oh wow, it just does it all in a straight line. Okay, well, this changed, actually. This used to be that it would just send out 8 of those balls of darkness in, like, a star pattern around you, just a big ol' asterisk. It no longer does that. So now I'm just highly confused. So what do we do with this one? Well, one thing that you might have noticed is that this thing does not have a very friendly cooldown. Seriously, a 12-second cooldown on this spell? That's ridiculous. So we need to roll with a lot of cooldown reduction, or at least some. Yeah, because like 10.2, that's definitely better than 12. It's still not friendly, but at least it's something. And if we're going to roll with that, we need to also roll with things to keep enemies at bay while we're waiting for this thing to come back. And for a build like this, we're just going to go full cooldown reduction. Mostly because we freaking have to. So I say we take the spice rack. Then for this spell, I think what we're going to do is... so we've got cooldown reduction up the butt, so we're going to go Fractal Flare. For this, I want something that can cast rapidly, so Thunderline. And our basic. I mean, there's pretty much no question. We have to go with Air Spinner. And yeah. So, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm very worried about this run. Like, I'm really not sure how well this is gonna work. But I think I'm going to change my mind on something. I think instead of Fractal Flare, I want to go with... God, do I go with Flame Cleaver or do I go with Dragon Arc? I mean, I could also go down to the Water Element and see if I have a good multi-use spell there. The answer is a very solid... Maybe what I do is I take Aqua Beam. There we go. I think that'll work. That'll help me keep enemies at bay. Then I've got the Absolute Finale to wreck enemy faces, and Air Spinner and Thunderline to keep enemies off of me. I don't know, like, at all how well this is going to work. This build is very much a random hodgepodge, and even though you heard my... pardon me. I don't know where that came from. But even though you heard my thought process behind how I was going to put this together, I am very worried about how it's going to go in the long run. Also, Okay, it is the classic soundtrack again. And yeah, there really is no place that's better or worse to start than anywhere else, so we'll just go for it. And we got the classic crew, starting with Atlas. So as you can see, it just plain old erases people. Oof. Yeah, in a build like this, having such a long cooldown on any of your spells is a real issue. And even though it just erases mooks just straight up, it's the idea that it takes so long to cast that really throws it off. But it's because my attack power is only mildly influencing other things. I figure best to focus on cooldown reduction. And we just go from there. Honestly, just about anything else when you're using this particular build is kind of superfluous. So many relics that I want, oh my goodness. Okay, we're coming back to this. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still feeling a little nervous about this run, but I'm gonna do everything I can. I know some of you really like Absolute Finale. I'm more lukewarm on it. I understand the appeal, but I just find other spells that have a... Okay, I am getting ruined. This one room... Okay, I've had enough of these things. Okay, this one room just completely ruined my face. Oh my god. Ooh, one shot. The one thing you will definitely notice with what I've put together here is I'm going to be spending a lot of time dodging around enemies and throwing things at them. What can I say? It's just how I fight. Ooh, do I want Mercenary's Dagger? I get the feeling that's going to end up causing trouble. Because does it take extra coins for each like tick of the Aqua Beam? Because if that's the case, that could be really dangerous. But I also don't want to move super slow. So here's kind of where I'm sitting at with that. I don't know if it's going to take extra gold to use any particular thing. Or in this case, for every tick of Aqua Beam, will it take extra gold for each tick of it? Like, I don't know how I feel about that. So I think what I do is I grab the Blazing Lariat, even though I know it won't be super effective in all the places I'm going. But it also works very nicely with the whole Spice Rack build I have going on. And I think I just convinced myself to buy Jade's Chakra Locket. Alright, well this floor was an absolute goddamn mess. Look at that, took 315 damage on the first floor. Woo! That is muy mal. Muy mal. Oh, that's a lot of Earth Knights. Holy crap. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm not going to blame my current performance on lack of practice. I'm just going to say this is not an easy build to work with, and hope that you guys understand. Oh, and Spiral Rumblers. Actually, I really like that spell. For a build like this, where my whole goal is just to keep enemies off my back, I'd say that's just beautiful. Alright, this is a very different build from what I normally make. I'm normally doing my best to focus on, like, critical hit or damage or using multicast spells. Those are, like, my favorite builds. So, just strictly focusing on cooldown reduction. It feels weird, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, that probably should have been my opening argument, if I'm being honest. Just, yeah, I see what you're saying, but what about this? Okay, I get the feeling I'm gonna need this. I don't know, maybe the reason why I'm having trouble is because I'm, like, afraid to use Absolute Finale? Or I could just be playing poorly. Like, maybe there's no reason to overthink it or try to make excuses. Maybe I'm just not playing that well. I'm also noticing... I'm looking at the amount of damage taken. I'm like, God, I can do better than this. I am better than this. I don't know, hopefully you guys don't judge me too harshly for my poor play and for my high glucose levels. Really? I dashed right into that? There we go. Okay, now I can finally shut this damn thing up. God, I know. How dare I eat breakfast? So, as I'm playing with it and seeing the kind of damage it's doing against bosses, which, to be fair, is kinda average, it seems, especially for the cooldown and the idea that this is a Chaos Arcana, I kind of feel like this is one of those spells where it's great against regular enemies, not so great against bosses. But we're gonna keep playing, because I do think that it's better than I'm giving it credit for. And I'm just kind of not playing great right now. Which really makes me wonder why I picked that up. Ah, almost got away without taking damage in that room. Oh, I accidentally hit enemies in this room. Holy crap. That range is phenomenal. Alright, remember, use your absolute finale more. You're not making any headway by like holding on to it as if it were like a cherished puppet. Oh, you jerks. Admittedly, it is kind of a pretty big wild card to just walk into the trials with essentially just a fully charged death spell. Even if it doesn't work on the bosses necessarily, I mean, it's still kind of a big thing to walk in and say, yeah, I've just got, death. Ow. Ugh. Okay. Come on. We can do this. I also openly admit that for some reason I'm very nervous about this run. I think it's because I know that there is a lot of support out there for this spell, and I feel like by saying that it's just okay, it's going to make a lot of people very upset. Maybe I worry about that unnecessarily, and yet at the same time I still fear what happens if I give the wrong take on this spell. Yay, I missed! Well, I'm not going for critical hits, so I'll definitely take that. Alright, I kinda have all the defensive relics I want. I need to start looking for offensive relics. Or even just like Roxel's Pendulum for even more cooldown reduction. I'm so sick of Macho Ghouls. Get these fuckers out of my game. They don't belong here. Oh, hi. I don't know if I actually want to give away a spell. I don't dislike the spells that I have. I would just... like to make them better. Okay, one spell, clear an entire room. That's the sort of thing we like to see around these parts. Why did I cast that into the wall? Well, you see, you are using a series of earth-enchanted power drills, so you were probably digging for buried treasure. And grab it just in case. You know what? 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Hey, you got anything good for me? I have a couple things I want. Alright, well, let's start here, and then go with that. Beautiful. And to answer the question of why worry about attack power bonuses when you've got Absolute Finale, 1, it increases the damage that Absolute Finale will do to bosses. And 2, obviously there are going to be plenty of times where I don't have Absolute Finale. So I would like to be able to have more damage on my other spells. And hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And if it doesn't, I don't know what more I can do to help you understand. Will you go away now? Criminy. Also, you might be asking yourself, hey, I haven't seen you use the signature cast of this very much. What's up with that? Honestly, I'm trying to answer that question myself, but I think what we are seeing is that Absolute Finale does not do a good job of charging up its signature. Matter of fact, it charges absolutely no signature on its own. And that, in and of itself, kind of makes it a less suitable signature for most situations. It's just... Yeah, honestly, it's really not that good against bosses. Oh my goodness. Like, I know what I just said earlier about not wanting to throw people off by saying I don't like this spell very much, but... Yeah, this is, like, the epitome of great against rooms, terrible against bosses, because it even... Like, look at that. I can just wipe out entire rooms in one spell, and then as soon as I get to a boss, it's like, well, time to struggle. But that leads to a question. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with this. I am not saying that this is necessarily a bad spell. I was definitely saying that when this spell stopped at a single target. Now that it punches through enemies, it's definitely more useful. But now I'm forced to ask the question, is this spell worth it? Like, when we have so many other options that are really great at clearing rooms, and so many other things with great areas of effect, what is the use case for Absolute Finale? Like, I'm not trying to be just Mr. Contrarian here, this is a general question. What is the end game with this spell? I'm trying really hard not to fall into that trap of, oh, just because it's not great in some scenarios doesn't mean that it's, you know, not worth using in others. Like, again, I get that. And then even the signature cast is really only good in rooms and not against bosses. Yay, that's the second time in the whole run I've gotten my signature cast off. Woot. It exists. I do also like that it has a bit wider of a hitbox than you would expect from a spell like this. Because I thought for sure I was going to miss one of those Fire Lancers, and, you know, lo and behold, I hit them. That doesn't mean that it's got like a wide hitbox, it just means it's a little bit wider than you would have given it credit for. Because, you know, if you're like me and you understand how physics works, you would be pretty certain that if something went behind someone's back, that meant it went behind someone's back. It didn't magically curve around and dig its way into their colon. Alright, make sure that we get the maximum bonus out of the Cartographer's Quill, and then move forward. And we'll come up here to get these 2 free health orbs. Alright, so as of right now, the pros to this spell, it pierces through enemies, has a slightly wider hitbox than you would assume it would have, given, you know, the spell's animation. Which, of course, makes it really good for clearing rooms. And, you know, it's not... The other big bonus that I am noticing with this, and again, this is more so geared towards room clearing, is that it also insta-kills those stone golems and macho ghouls. So that is really nice. Like, I know I'm coming off as pretty harsh towards this spell, but credit where it's due, that's really cool. Oh, and I guess it also one-hits these, like, jumping pancaker guys. But then the cons are, it doesn't charge up any signature of its own, making it very similar to summon spells in that regard. But here's where I'm really confused. Even with the Null Flash agents, I was getting a decent amount of signature charge for my spell. So I think part of that is actually going to be more based upon the spells that I have going with it. Because there are some spells in this game that are just infamously good at charging signature, like Bolt Rail or... God, what's the name of that spell? Twin Turbines. Bolt Rail and Twin Turbines. Those are both pretty good at charging signature, and I was using both of those during the Null Flash agent run. Also, spells that just do heavy damage are also pretty good at charging signature. So again, it's not that this spell is necessarily bad. Because obviously something that just straight up wipes out some of these big threats is nice. But there are other spells that do just as good of a job at that. Spells like Obsidian Cascade, just as one example that I can think of. So that once again forces me to ask the question, what is Absolute Finale good for? Like, what is its overall strength? And I think I already nailed it with room clearing. And in that respect, it's a room clearer that doesn't discriminate. It takes out anything that gets in its way. And that is a legitimate good point about this spell. But it seems like against bosses, it just doesn't do enough to be worth that long cooldown. And obviously the whole point is that they were trying to balance it out in such a way that it wouldn't just be like the de facto everything spell. But I also think that they might have gone a bit too far. That having been said, I do like the change to its signature cast, because it used to be just an 8-way, like, star-shaped cast. Now it's just a big line, just a wave of incoming death. Like it really is destined death. Ow. But then its damage against bosses is iffy. Like, I'm not sure if the extra ticks of damage actually perform any stun or not. Like, that's another point that I'm very confused about. Because if Absolute Finale isn't generating any stun against bosses, then yeah, you're very much better off using other combo pieces. Like, just straight up. Oh, and let's not forget, it's super, super long cooldown, which without any cooldown reduction is 12 seconds. Like, the only things that have a longer cooldown reduction than that are the summoned agents, and they only have that long cooldown because they have a long duration. Ow. And it counts as hits, so I get the feeling it is generating stun. I just also get the feeling it's not generating much of it. Ow. Oh, and after now seeing how the signature cast works against bosses, yeah, this spell is kind of trash against bosses. I don't know, I think... Now, I haven't gone through all of them, so let's not say this for certain yet. This might be the worst Chaos signature in the game. Like, I could even find good ways to make Arcane Intervention do good damage against bosses. I was not having any trouble with Astral Dissonance and getting that to work in multiple scenarios. But Absolute Finale? Ugh. And here's the thing, I might not have struggled as much, at least in the late game, with Absolute Finale, because, you know, I was starting to understand its role in your build better. But if you're gonna go that route, you're very much better off just taking a different signature entirely. Like, I didn't think I was gonna come out of a Chaos Arcana signature spotlight series being like, yeah, this spell sucks gigantic donkey balls, but this one kind of does. But again, credit where it's due, very good in runes. Because they decided to leave its super death dealing properties alone when dealing with things like macho ghouls and stone golems. So, for that reason alone, I would say if you're going to use Absolute Finale, use it as a standard spell, because as a signature, this doesn't cut it. And I know that there are probably people who are like, no, it's really good as a signature. It's like, bro, no. This is copium. If you really need a good long-range, high-damage signature, use Aqua Beam. Or a Distortion Beam, which I haven't gotten to yet, and that's a whole nother can of worms, but that's a can of worms that has a much more positive upside. But yeah, Absolute Finale, not worth it. And that is that for now. So thank you guys very much for coming and spending your free time here with me today. I very much appreciate it. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and you take care, everybody.